Bike packing is really popular right now, and it's easy to see why. It's not about the suffering, it's not about the Strava KOMs, and it's not about the watts per kilo. Instead, it's about having fun. It's about putting the adventure back into cycling. Being self-sufficient, traveling fast and light, solo or with a few friends, going as far as you want into the countryside and having your own adventure, planned or unplanned. And if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you want some tips and advice on how to do your first bike packing adventure. And I'll use a fairly typical bike packing setup on a brand new Canyon Gristle to give a demonstration of what you might need to go bike packing. There will be a review of this bike on my channel, hopefully linked above by the time you watch this video, so you can go and check out that bike if you want in more detail. I think the first and most important tip I can offer you is that bike packing is really quite simple. It's just you, your bike, some bags, and a bit of essential equipment that you need for your bike packing adventure. It's very easy to overcomplicate it, to overthink it, and worry you don't have this or that, but really it's quite simple. And when you do your first bike packing adventure, you realise just how simple it is. The other point that's worth addressing is that bike packing can seem an expensive pastime. And when you look at this setup, it's easy to see why. This is the ultimate bike packing setup if you want, with a brand new carbon fibre Canyon Gristle gravel bike with a 1x drivetrain and these Apidura bags, which are not a cheap option. But you can do it in a much more affordable way if you want. You can use any bike you already have, an old mountain bike, a cyclocross bike, a road touring bike, or a gravel bike if you do have one. And then instead of your bike packing bags, you can use simple dry bags that you can get from any outdoor store, and with some straps you can put all your sleeping and camping equipment in them and strap them to the handlebar and to the seat post, and that gives you a much more affordable, lower cost entry into the world of bike packing. But the benefit of these bike packing bags here, and these are Apidura, quite a popular company, and there are many other bike packing bag companies now available to choose from, is that they are designed for the purpose of bike packing, designed to fit a gravel or mountain bike really well. Different sizes available, small or large, depending on the distance and requirements of your bike packing adventure. Lots of customization and adjustability, extra straps and tags to put lights and extra clothing on as well. Some are modular, some clip onto the frame, some use Velcro straps, and you can get custom made bags as well. So plenty of options really to suit your requirements, to suit your preference when it comes to bike packing. Before we get into what I'm packing in these bags, it's worth talking about the idea, the essence of bike packing to help you understand the approach to what you pack in your bags. And it's really all about traveling fast and light and taking as little equipment as you need, really streamlining your setup as much as possible to keep the weight as low as possible. And the idea of strapping bags to the frame means the bike retains the riding and handling performance of it being unladen, so you can still have a fun ride. The bike isn't really heavy and really sluggish. You can still enjoy the trails that you find when you're adventuring and bike packing. Bike packing or strapping bags to frames actually originated in the mountain bike world with events like Tour Divide, because mountain bikes aren't designed for racks and panniers, which are the road and touring setup. You could use racks and panniers on a gravel bike if you have rack mounts, and that gives you much more cargo capacity. But the downside to racks and panniers is extra weight, because the racks themselves are heavier, then the panniers are much wider. And the benefit of bike packing bags, it keeps it very streamlined, so the bike isn't super wide, you can get through narrow gaps more easily, and it keeps the weight low as well, because the bags are much lighter, there's no additional racks, no extra metal hardware, so the whole setup is much lighter. On my recent bike packing adventure, you might have seen my video on it recently, my bike doubled in weight. So it went from about 10 kilos to about 20 kilos, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually really rideable, and it still maintains the essence of the ride and handling performance it does unladen. The other really important consideration, and it's critical when you're setting up your bike packing bike, is to decide how much you need and how many bags you need to take. And that all depends on the size, the ambition, and the distance of your bike packing adventure. So what you need for a weekend micro adventure is very different to what you might need for a week-long adventure. And then it depends on where you're going. If you're going in a very remote area with no water or food available on the route, you'll have to take a lot more water and food on a bike, so more bags and more capacity to carry extra food. If you know you'll be riding through villages and towns on a regular basis, and you can easily get food and water on the route, you can carry much less on a bike, so you can have a much lighter setup and know you can restock along the way. So those variables will decide on how big the bags need to be and whether you need to take camping, cooking equipment with you, or whether you can get away with going from pubs and restaurants along the way. And it depends on what sort of adventure you want. Some people want that wild experience where they're camping in the middle of nowhere, but some people are quite happy stopping at a pub or restaurant on the route before they go wild camping. And that really leads on to the next important factor, is your sleeping arrangement. So if you're going wild camping, you have to take a bivvy, a tent, a shelter, a hammock, something to sleep on, mattress, a sleeping bag as well. But if you're going for a hotel or B&B option or a hostel, which is perfectly fine within the rules of bike packing, because there are no rules, then you can get away without carrying that sleeping equipment and then save a lot of weight. So in summary then, the two really important considerations to make when choosing your bike packing bag for your adventure are your sleeping arrangements and your food and cooking requirements. Decide on those two first and the rest will be easy. So with all that said, let's take a look at my bags and what I'm packing in these bags for a typical adventure, give you some ideas around what you might want to take with you. Let's start at the front with my handlebar bag, into which I put all my sleeping equipment, my inflatable roll mat, and either a bivvy or a tent, a very lightweight tent, and which I choose depends on the weather and how much comfort and luxury I want. Now the reason for putting all the sleeping equipment in a handlebar bag is that it keeps the weight nice and low, so the handling isn't affected badly, so it still rides like a normal bike. And because you don't need it during the day, once you've got it packed in there, you can just leave it, attach the handlebar, and then worry about it in the evening when you get to your campsite. On this bag, we have a couple of straps here, which is good for putting a coat or other bits and bobs. So that's your handlebar bag. You get different sizes, and one factor to consider is that the wider, the bigger the bag, the wider your handlebar will need to be. So you need to factor in the handlebar width for how much space you have for a bag as well. Some bags are modular, so you put another bag on the top, on the front, if you need more space as well. Next up, we have the frame pack, and these come in a variety of sizes. Small, medium, you need to get some that will fit the entire front triangle, and some can be custom made to your requirements. And in your frame pack, you want to fit all your essentials and stuff you need during the day. So plenty of food, flapjack or whatever you like to eat during your ride. Then your tools, so multi-tool, chain breaker, spare chain link, tube of plugs, spare inner tubes, maybe some cable ties, some other essential tools you need to fix your bike, maybe spare brake pads, a rear mech hanger, other bits you might need to fix your bike when you're out in the middle of nowhere. If I'm taking my tent, I put my tent poles in here because they won't fit in there. And also other bits and bobs like a debit card, credit card, first aid kit perhaps, antibacterial wipes and alcohol gel because of COVID-19. You might want to put your camera in there as well. So all your stuff you need during the day, tools, accessories, food and other bits and bobs. Then we have the top tube bag, which is a really popular accessory on bike packing setups. This one actually bolts onto the frame with two bolts on the top tube, but many just Velcro strap to the frame. This one's got an easy flap with a magnet, so it's very easy to access. And this is a great place for your food. Fill it with flapjacks, Haribo, whatever you want in there, and it's really easy to access during a ride. You can also use it for your smartphone or for a battery pack to power your computer or your light at the front as well, if doing an overnighter. But for me, because I'm always filming when I'm riding, I use it for my GoPro and microphone. It's very easy to access, but that's entirely optional. Again, these come in different sizes, small, large, whatever you need. There are a few other bags you can fit at the front of the bike. Get some fuel pods, which attach to the handlebar, and you can put your bottle in there or other food. Plenty of other options as well, but this is your fairly typical standard setup. And then we have the seat pack. So called because it attaches to the seat and a seat post on the frame. Again, these come in various sizes, from small to really large, depending on what you need. And inside the seat pack, I put my camping equipment, so a titanium mug with a fuel cell and the stove attachment inside that. Some loo roll, just in case, because you never know, you might get caught out in the middle of nowhere. And then some medical supplies, so a small first aid kit perhaps, if it doesn't fit in your frame pack. And some toiletries, so toothbrush, toothpaste, and other bits and bobs like that as well. Or some baby wipes if you go in bare bones. And then spare clothing for your overnight. So for me, some lightweight hiking trousers, a long sleeve top or a puffer coat. Now, puffer coats are really good. You can wear them on the morning of a chilly ride and then put them in the bag when you don't need them. And then also other clothing you might need if the weather is changeable. So arm warmers, knee warmers, spare socks, a rain jacket and other things. And that depends on the conditions you might encounter during your adventure. And then you can fill out the rest of the space with more food, because you can never have enough food when you're in the middle of nowhere on a very long ride. And then using the straps on this bag, you can attach an extra coat, extra layer of clothing, or your footwear if you're taking footwear like flip-flops or sandals for the evening, or your dangle mug if you're taking one of those. With the seat pack, it's really important that you pack the bulky, heavy items near the frame to try and keep the weight as close to the frame as possible, and the lighter items, the softer items at the back, to try and stop this swaying around when you're riding out of a saddle. That's something you really need to minimise with a seat pack. Probably the only downside to a heavy, big seat pack, they can shift around a bit. So that's something you need to really consider. Pack it very carefully, heavy items at the front, light items at the back, and then strap it to the seat pack as carefully as you can. Another top tip that I strongly recommend you follow is, before you put your packs on your frame, is buy some clear tape and put that clear tape wherever the packs may attach to the frame. That will stop the straps wearing away the paint. Even if the packs have nice soft material on them, there's still the risk of your frame paint being worn away, especially if it's raining and you're riding through mud. So put some clear tape on a frame at all key points. There are a few other accessories you might want to consider. So a GPS by computer is much easier than using a paper map, but a paper map can still be more useful in certain areas, so choose one to suit your requirements. Lights, so LED lights front and rear, a nice bright main light will be useful if you're riding through the night or riding into the evening or starting very early in the morning. You definitely want to take some good quality tools, so a nice pump, spare inner tubes, tubeless plugs for your tubeless tyres, a good well-equipped multi-tool with a chain breaker function, spare chain links or two, maybe spare gear cable or brake cable if you're using those, a spare battery or battery charger if you're using Di2 or SRAM ETAP, and any other tools you might need if you have any different requirements on your bike. Luckily, bikes these days are pretty reliable. Even electronic group sets are very reliable, so the risk of mechanical is pretty low, but it's definitely worth being prepared. It's better to be prepared than not prepared if you do have an unfortunate mechanical. For your pedals and shoes, I strongly recommend mountain bike pedals and shoes like I'm wearing here. The shoes are much easier to walk in if it's muddy or unrideable terrain, and the pedals are much better at dealing with mud and other bad conditions than road pedals and shoes. So there we are then, my tips and advice for going bikepacking for the very first time, and hopefully I've shown you that it's actually quite easy and quite simple and not as overcomplicated as some people make it out to be. So what are you waiting for? Get some bikepacking equipment and go bikepacking and have your own adventure, and trust me, you will love it. It'll be the best thing you ever do. Anyway, if you have any more questions, and I'm sure you do, don't hesitate to put them down below in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy watching the video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you so much for watching.